Hello, hello, welcome to another video, and let's talk about everyone's favorite thing in modern gaming, and that is live service games. Now, I'm like most modern day gamers, you really can't not play a live service game at this point. It feels like at least half of every big game release is some sort of twist to be live service. Even games back in the day that were in their like heyday, something like Assassin's Creed, the big single player type of experiences have kind of transitioned to have a lot of live service aspects to it. I obviously don't think Assassin's Creed is in the same genre of live service as a lot of other games, but it seems like they're getting a little bit out of hand. I think I'm in the majority when I say that it feels like most live service games crash and burn more than they succeed and become this big giant thing. Now, I'm bringing this up as live service games kind of got pushed back into the forefront with a recent article talking about Warner Brothers Games and one of their lead directors or, higher end executives within the gaming part of that recently talked about their live service games, and quotes that came out of it were pretty bad. And if you just saw stuff on Twitter about the article, I saw some complaints of people like, oh, you didn't even read the full article kind of thing. That's not what, he was saying. Because a lot of the quotes that came out of it were essentially that rather than just launching a one and done console game, how do we develop a game around, for example, a Hogwarts Legacy or Harry Potter that's a live service where people can live and work and build and play in that world in an ongoing basis. So people took this whole article and had it basically be like, Warner Brothers is deciding to just say, fuck it, let's double down and go even further into the live service game. It's funny because they just released the Suicide Squad game, which is a very, very bad live service game. A lot of live service games, it feels like they're not built on the gameplay, which I think is why so many of them fail. And I'm not breaking new ground with saying that. Most people call live service games just a cash grab, which a lot of times I think is true. And using this article as an example of him talking about, oh, Hogwarts Legacy sold super well. It was best-selling game of the year, right? Extremely successful. You should be proud of that. And I don't think in any way, from like a company standpoint, publisher, developer, you can look at that as a failure in literally any way. You literally sold the most games in a year. There's no better outcome for a game, if that makes sense. And the weird thing of being like, okay, we had a hit with this, let's instantly pivot and make it a live service game, which feels so backwards to me, where it's like, wouldn't you want to develop Hogwarts Legacy, maybe add some DLC to it, give some reason for people to buy a DLC, come back to the game, or maybe add the things in the DLC that will make new players that haven't bought it yet play it and buy it and go from there, rather than just pivot, be like, okay, it lived its life, it's fine, it did really well, but let's just do this and make it a live service game just so we can cash in a lot more money this way with microtransactions and whatever other BS. And I don't think pivoting to a live service game is always like this death sentence for a franchise or for an idea. They go in to this article and talk about all the other IPs that Warner Brothers has full control of, and they feel like they're in a good position to leverage these IPs to make new games and stuff. I agree that that's probably good, but I don't think leveraging all these different IPs into a live service game is a good idea in any way. A live service game, people will compare it to literally having a job because you have to be playing it continuously to stay up to date with the game. They want you to literally not play other games. They want you to play their game. They want to have enough new shit slowly drip to you so that you don't have the urge to play something else. They want you to just sit there, take these drips of water like you're sucking milk straight from the tit, basically. But you're not getting a lot of milk out of it. But the idea that you'll have all these players playing each specific live service game of yours, it doesn't make sense for how live services are, with the fact of you have to like keep up to date with this game. It's hard to have like 4 different live service games to go, especially if you're someone that like works a full-time job and everything, you only have so much time, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to leverage that little bit of time to play how many different live service games and feel adequately up to date with what's going on in the game. And the thing is, there's been like really very successful live service games, and the first live service games that I can think of would be something like sports games. And I know the first big one that most people think of is Destiny, which I think is definitely the first one that like made live service gaming pushed out into the forefront, made all these other publishers and developers be like, look how much money they're getting. Even though D1 didn't have it, the microtransactions D2 has, which is hurt it. But this live service game style of keeping the players playing, everyone else wanted that and they were chasing that. And then you got terrible games like Anthem that tried to pivot at the last second to a live service game and try and overtake Destiny, and it crashed and burned. But sports games with their Ultimate Team system that every single one has feels live service in a way. They're always adding new packs, they're always adding new cards, and guess what, at the end of the year it's all worthless because then the next game comes out, which always seems super scummy with sports games. But after the big boom of Destiny, the next huge live service game that came out, I know I'm probably missing some smaller ones, but it would be Fortnite. Fortnite came out a few years after Destiny 1, exploded in popularity, and it's really never looked back. It's had highs and lows, obviously, like most games. The crazy thing is, like, Fortnite feels like it's going through its like second big wave recently. It went through a little lull, and then all of a sudden it's been pumping back up. There's so much content in the game. There's so much microtransactions and everything. The amount of money you can just put in Fortnite is insane. And the crazy thing to me is that like when Fortnite was first like made and developed and everything, it wasn't this idea of like, let's make this giant live service game to get people to buy microtransactions. It was literally, let's make a BR with our twist on it and see how it does. People loved it and they just rolled with it. I think that's the key for like these live service games that do well. The development of the game should not be centered around this business idea around it of making it live service. If you want to make a game and you're like, we're going to have constant updates to include everything, I feel like it's better to hear something like that rather than be like, yep, we're making a live service game in this world. It feels like you're shooting yourself in the foot because instantly people are going to have their own thoughts with live service games. They're going to be like, you're just going to fill it with microtransactions, have very little content at the start, because from a developer standpoint, I understand the appeal of a live service game of you can shit out an unfinished game and sell it with the promise that updates are coming and you can slowly make the game better. And for developers, I'm not shitting on developers for doing this. I'm sure 99% of the time it's not fully their idea to be like, let's make a game as a cash cow. But the fact that they're giving themselves more time to develop the game after it's already out, I think helps with stuff like crunch and everything like that for developers. So I understand why, from a developer level, they could look at a live service game in an appealing light. But the fact that there's been a handful of like successful live service games, it does not really bode well for the amount of absolutely train wrecks that were released with this live service banner behind it. And the fact that you can find endless articles talking about how many live service games and stuff have died, have crashed and burned and everything. It's funny because a lot of times it is the same kind of cluster. It's the big fails. And of course, the first one is Chocobo GP. I've never heard of this game. Babylon's Fall. That was very recent, 2022. That game, I don't even know if that game lasted a full year before they ended up shutting it down. Marvel's Avengers, that's a huge one. People were so hyped about having a Marvel's Avengers game because this was at the time when Marvel was still such a huge thing in the movie kind of universe. It didn't hit its current kind of downswing, like fatigue kind of thing. And then it turned out it was a live service game. There were so many bugs when the game released. There was so little content. That game crashed and burned very quickly as well. Anthem, definitely the biggest one that people can think of when you think of like a failed live service game. This game, everything I remember, At very beginning, it wasn't supposed to be a live service. The idea of everything was still going to be just like a single player game. And then they saw the success of Destiny and everything, pivoted the development to be a live service game, and it was very empty, was not very good. The story was pretty bad. Everything just sucked, and people quit very quickly in that game. Splitgate, I don't know if I would necessarily... I feel like that's more just the developers just quit this game from what I remember. They just kind of stopped adding content, stopped developing anything for it, and were like, hey, we're going to make a sequel. Halo Infinite. Honestly, as a live service, I would agree that I'd say it's a disappointing live service game. The release of it, Halo Infinite is just like the classic live service game. It feels like that it released barely anything for content at day one release, and then it slowly petered out, and now it's probably at like its best state, but so much of it is too little too late. Evolve, I didn't even know this was a live service game thinking about it. I never played Evolve. I remember it had huge hype, and then it died out very, very quickly. Fallout 76, this is another one that I'm pretty sure that at like a current state, it's pretty goddamn good. I've played this a few years after it was released. It was a very fun kind of game. Did feel empty still in ways. Yeah, like they fumbled the bag. There was so much technical problems with that also didn't help the fact that it felt empty. And even Destiny 1, that's like this big golden goose of fucking live service games. It had it didn't have a terrible release. It was a very empty release. People were so... I remember people complaining so much year one Destiny how bad the DLCs were and stuff for it. And a funny thing for like live service games this past year is something like Cyberpunk winning best ongoing game, because it's a single player game. They won this literally by just updating their game so it wasn't broken to shit, making just small adjustments to systems to make it better, and adding a really good DLC. If you want to call Cyberpunk a live service because of that, I don't think it is. I think that's a big stretch. Something that I would give you is MMOs being live service. They definitely are, and those are the ones that work really well. And from an industry thing, I think a lot of people also saw purely MMOs and saw the money they were raking in by stuff like WoW having a monthly subscription and stuff like that. These other companies were like, how do we make more of our games produce money all the time? And then they saw the money, and they got a little greedy about the money and decided, let's make everything into a fucking live service game. And Warner Brothers now is like, you know what, let's make Harry Potter a live service game after we just had the best-selling game of 2022 that was a single-player Harry Potter game. Let's not build off of that. Let's just pivot after we just started this franchise. It'd be different if this was like the fourth Hogwarts Legacy game and they wanted to do like a little spin side piece kind of thing. Kind of like what Fallout did with 76, but like Fallout, it's been too long to be like, oh yeah, they fixed it with a single-player Fallout game. But yeah, this is a little rant. I saw this earlier this week. I've been feeling a little bland this week, so I wanted to just kind of have a rant about something. Live service gaming, I don't think it is fully the worst thing ever. I don't think it's great, because I think too many companies are just trying to shoehorn it in shit that doesn't need it. But I just wanted to rant a bit about live service games. It's been a hot topic in gaming for years at this point now. I don't think it's ever going to end. I think there's always going to be aspects of live service games. I think they need to find the good balance of how to, use it in a good way. I feel like we're far from it. So, I don't know. Leave your thoughts on live service games. The whole Hogwarts, Warner Brothers live service thing. Other live service games that you enjoy. I'm sure there's lots that are actually pretty good. And I know there's a lot of games that people enjoy that are live service. There's nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed Halo Infinite right now. It's a live service game. But I just think it's being shoehorned way too much. And that's not even just the microtransactions. There's a beauty in building just a single game, putting it out there, and letting people enjoy it. If it's good, guess what? You're going to get fucking praised. And people are going to buy probably more of whatever next game you make. Look at the whole Dark Souls series. But that is going to do it for me. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for supporting the channel. Leave a like if you enjoy. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.